Constantine Commander Spotlight version 2.0. It has been 1.5 years, probably 2 years since Constantine has been released in Rise of Kingdoms. And there is a lot to talk about Constantine, as right now he has a lot of utilities, still a lot of utilities in Rise of Kingdoms. And I want to give you some advice if it's still worth it to work on Constantine, how good he is, where can you still use Constantine right now in Rise of Kingdoms, and does it still worth it to invest in Constantine? Hello everyone and welcome back to another Rise of Kingdom video. My name is Legend Ronnie and today is Constantine Commander Spotlight version 2.0. If you don't know, I have a full playlist about Commander Spotlights and I'm doing a new playlist where I'm going to do just legendary commanders. Whenever I talked about them, whenever I've done Commander Spotlight about them, and now it's Constantine's turn to do an update because it has been quite a long time since I've done his first Commander Spotlight. First things that we need to know about legendaries, you want to know the stars and you want to know the sculpture cost. After that, you want to know that equipment only apply from the primary commander. So as you notice, he has quite a decent amount of equipment. It means that he is a primary commander. I will talk later on a little bit more in depth about his equipment. Couple more things that we need to talk is about the skills. Usually keeping a commander at 1 star, upgrading his primary skills to 5, it's the best way to go. On Constantine's situation, once you max out his primary, you want to upgrade him to 2nd star so that he can max out his 2nd skill. If you're wondering why, is because if you go all the way and unlock his stars, the skills allocation is random. And I have a commander over here as proof, because unfortunately about epics in my situation, it makes no difference when I get them max skill. So if you see Keira, she's 3555. So how about that? Her primary skill is the most important one, but just because I will not use her until she's max skill, this is how she got. The randomness plays a very important role. So that's why with the star, you can control how you can upgrade the skill of a commander. This is the talent trees that I use all the time on Constantine, because I try to keep someone with healing as a second in command, like in Ark of Osiris or in Sunset Canyon. I usually have Joan of Arc, and this helps a lot with the small healings on the counterattack. And then this helps Ethelflaed a lot, because Ethelflaed does extra damage on targets that have been slowed, and I use Ethelflaed with YSG or Ethelflaed with Sun Tzu, and there's just extra damage for the march. After that, you need the infantry part, and with the extra talents, I just got some defense and some attack from over here. There was nothing else to go for. Oh, I got some 0.5 health from over here. There is also some garrison talent trees. I believe this is for city made. The only thing that I will probably change on this talent tree is trying to get expert design, since you have siege in your city. There's like 6% defense, health, and attack on your siege, which it wouldn't hurt on your city. And this is not for city, and this is for any kind of situation. I made this with counterattack, meaning that you must have a healer as a second. So most likely with Wu Zetian or Zenobia, if you want to put Zenobia as a second in command, or maybe Richard, you want to do that for Ark of Osiris, a super defensive, that can also work as well. And if you want to do against Attila and Takeda, the only thing that you need to change from this, and this is why I'm not changing these talent trees, don't need Impregnable. This will not help you against Attila and Takeda because it's skill damage reduction. What I still use Constantine right now. Constantine, I use him in Sunset Canyon mostly, but recently I have done a video, and I'm gonna make sure to post a card on the top, where I talked about murder balls, big murder balls and small murder balls, because I have 24 max legendaries right now, so I have the options to make quite a lot of pairings. And in my last KVK, I had the opportunity to test. I usually just go full nuking on the battlefield, and like I mentioned, I talked in that video in more details. But I noticed when I'm going into smaller murder balls, when players can target marches like, let's say, El Cid leading, or marches like, let's say, YSG leading, or Genghis leading, or whichever other commanders you see over here, Edward leading, some of these very weak marches, they always go for them because they get good trades. They get a lot of kills. That's what everyone cares, right? When you go on the battlefield, you want to get kills. You're not going to go on a recharge. You're not going to go on a Charles because you know they go down very hard. Why shouldn't you just pick a weaker target like an Ethelfred or whatever? I had to do a change, and that included Constantine in that change that I have done. Like I mentioned, I've talked a lot on that video post on the top, and Constantine was part of it because of his unique buff on his primary skill. And this is the reason I recommend him as 5-5, and then you can unlock his other skills. If you plan to max him, that's okay, especially if you're an infantry player, you definitely want to max him. But if you're like a free-to-play infantry player, you might want to keep him as a 5-5-1-1 because there's other infantry commanders that you want to max. Even as a 5-5, I'm telling you that for field battle, he's amazing for what you need him to do. The primary skill of Constantine, you see the attack reduction 40% on one target, but then you see the AoE buff that he does to nearby friendly targets. And it says reduces damage taken by this commander's troops and nearby allies' troops by 10%. So he is a very essential commander on field battles. As many Constantines there are, the better it is. It's not specified what damage taken reduction is. It is considered all damage. Now, if it's considered all damage, that's skill damage, there's normal attack, and that's counterattack damage. So does he play a very important role? That's why he is a very useful commander. Not to mention his second skill with 40% health bonus. There's no other commander into the game that gives so much health bonus. If you didn't know, health and defense helps you have lesser hospital bills. At least that's what I have noticed. That's why so many players are so much in favor of Richard and Charles Martel, because you're very defensive, you take less damage, and because of the health, you have less hospital bills. That's why commanders that have less defense capabilities, like I was mentioning, like Edward L. Cid, and they can just, melt down. You can melt them down, or you get yours melted down on the battlefield. That's why you just fill up your hospital. So with defensive commanders going into the smaller murder balls, it pays off a little bit. Less hospital bills and you're more tanky. And you can keep this buff for as long as you want on the field. Obviously, if you unlock his expertise, that's when I'm also recommending for Garrison, especially in, let's say, KVK 3, you want to defend against Attila Takeda. Constantine and Charles Martel are a very good option that you can defend against Attila and Takeda, since some of the newer commanders, they have people, you need to have people migrating from older kingdoms if you want to defend with, I don't know, Theodora, Wyses, Zenobia, or Artemisia against Attila and Takeda. If you don't have those people migrating, then Constantine is again a very good option, but he needs to be expertise if you want him to work. For Fear Battle and for Sunset Canyon, 5-5-1-1 he's a must-have. If you really want to progress in Sunset Canyon, you definitely need Constantine. Constantine and Joan of Arc, it is a made pair for Sunset Canyon. There is no setup in Sunset Canyon that is on top ranks and doesn't have Constantine and Joan of Arc. Now the question is, does Constantine and Joan of Arc work on the field battles? I wouldn't recommend them. I have tried them from the same purpose, like just buffing, but anything that touches them, they have better traits, like anything. So I decided that Constantine and YSG is a very nice pair that you can bring on the battlefield, on the murder ball, especially when it is a murder ball, because I don't think people will favor going on a Constantine knowing that he's very tanky. And like I was mentioning that I will come back to his equipment, you're probably noticing that I do have a lot of blue and I do have a lot of green equipment. Like, why? Because for example, I do have materials and I can forge like full epic if I want on Constantine. The reason I'm going with all this equipment is because I just want defense and health. Constantine doesn't do any damage. I have tried to put items that I have, I believe, on Charles Martel or Alexander. So I could equip Constantine with, let's say, 10.5, because this one is with special talent on infantry, but I keep it on Ethelfled. Why? Because I have noticed that Constantine doesn't do damage. Doesn't matter if I try to empower his attack, it will just won't work. That being said, I'm just trying to bolster his defense and his health as much as possible so he can be as tanky as possible. And if I have to use him on the field, I use the same equipment. Obviously, if you plan to get him even more defensive, then obviously you need to do some higher grade equipment, maybe legendary, because the epic boots I still need to do with special talent for Guan Yu. So it's not going to be any time until my Constantine will have an epic boots. And they keep failing to go with the special talent, so I'm to keep trying because I want my Guan Yu with as better equipment as possible. But right now, Constantine is very stocked up on health. As you notice, just these two items is 21%, and then with this is like 26% health. So that's pretty nuts when you think about it. So that's like 29% health. That's crazy. And then I have some defense, which is 5.5 plus 7.5. So that's another 12, 13 defense that I have from these two items. So he's very, very tanky and very defensive. You get the John buff with 30% health. So there you have it. Other marches that you can do with Constantine, if you really want him even more defensive, I would find very, very interesting to do a Constantine and Leonidas, especially if you can afford to put like a coin on a Constantine. You can even put Leonidas first if you want, because you'll have the defense tree, and with the defense tree, you'll be able to get this tiny bit of healing with medicinal supplies. So doing a Leonidas and Constantine is not bad, because you also get the speed of rage gain from Leonidas, and that's also going to help Constantine to keep up on his primary skill. But if your Leonidas is not 60, then you can do Constantine and Leonidas, and that way they will be even more defensive. I haven't tried them because if I have to go with my defensive setup, this Leonidas as a 5511, as you see him over here, goes second to Guan Yu. So that's why there is no way I'm gonna put Leonidas with Constantine, because I need that for Guan Yu. And you're probably wondering where I'm gonna use Alex. I haven't decided yet, but so far, like I was mentioning, I'm doing Constantine and YSG, and I'm doing Guan Yu and Alex. But if you just want to go more defensive with your Constantine, then it's gonna be with Leonidas. That's also a very nice pair. Max skill Mechmed can also help. So trying to do some AoE, it will definitely help. You need to have some damage second to Constantine, because if you just go buffing, like I was mentioning, Constantine and John on the field battle, then you just have a lot of bad traits. For Ark of Osiris, you don't care about that. So if you really want to just bring a super buffy march for Ark of Osiris, then yeah, you can go Constantine and John of Ark. That's perfectly fine. Alex and Constantine, I don't really see how that would work. I did try them since I have them, believe me. Or I've tried Constantine and Alexander, it just doesn't work. Constantine needs a second in command that does either debuff or that does AoE. And that's why when I was mentioning the pairings, I was mentioning either YSG, either Mehmed, or I was also mentioning about Leonidas. These are very solid pairs that you can go with Constantine. If you just want to go super defensive and you want to put Charles Martel, you ain't going to do much on the field. You're definitely going to keep that buff up, but you ain't going to do much. Or if you want to go with Julius Caesar, again, you ain't going to do much on the field. You're not going to have a lot of good trades because you're not doing any damage. You're just taking a lot of damage. I already mentioned when I was talking about Sunset Canyon, without him, you cannot have a very high progress in Sunset Canyon. It's almost impossible. His primary skill is so helpful in Sunset Canyon, and he is also very defensive that you really need that. When you should also work on Constantine, if you already have 5 solid marches and you have 5 solid nuking marches, but you're struggling, like I was mentioning, like I explained in the video that I just posted the card on the top with my 5 marches on last KVK and so on. When you go on the smaller murder ball and you're facing the same problems like your weaker marches, either you're using Minamoto or either you're using Genghis or either you're using El Cid of some of the weaker marches, they always get swarmed in. That is also a reason why you can work on Constantine. One, you're going to bring buffs on the battlefield using Constantine as a primary, and two, you're going to be more defensive. So you're not going to be a target. Now, if you're not going to be a target and you have a YSG as a second, like I was mentioning, you can keep doing AoE, AoE, and AoE. And the second thing is, if you do get targeted, I have noticed that the AoE tends to go on the marches that hit you. So that way you're also returning some fire on the marches that hit you. So you're not going to have just like a lot of severely wounded on your side, you're also going to do some severely wounded on the other side that it's also hitting you. This is what I have noticed using Constantine on the field, and he's definitely needed. When I go on the bigger murder balls, I definitely bring my nuking marches, which I explained on the video, but on the smaller murder balls, from now on, I'm definitely going to use Constantine. Because as an all commander as he is, he still has a lot of utilities, and he is maxed. I'll be very honest, I would have not maxed him, but I got to a point where I won like almost 3 Mightiest Governors, and he was like just last skills left, like 3 skills on his 4 skill left, and she just had to use a couple of universals, so it was maxed. Nobody was really going for the Mightiest Governor, and when I migrated, because I kept migrating, I kept getting Constantine and Constantine again, and with really small investments, I managed to max him out. And personally, I just don't regret it doing it. He's really amazing. Sunset Canyon, field battles, really a needed commander. More pairings that you can do with Constantine. I'm not sure, to be honest, if he's gonna work with your Dora just so you can bring more AoE on the battlefield. Maybe you're using your YSG with another pair and you have a max skill Theodora. You can definitely try it. I'm not gonna say no to it, but I don't see a lot of benefit. With the YSS, very possible, but I wouldn't do mix, because if you do mix with Constantine, then hold the line has no effect. So that way you don't need hold the line with Constantine. Might work with YSS as well, but YSS that single target doesn't do AoE, although he packs a lot of defensive options and damage capabilities even for field. With Sun Tzu, yes, can definitely work. If you want to pair him with an epic, you can do Constantine and Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu's AoE would just help him generate more rage, and that's gonna be awesome for Constantine. You're just gonna get that buff more often, which will help your allies even more. So with whoever you want to pair Constantine with, I would put an AoE as a second in command. There is solid pairings with YSG, and personally, I'm just gonna stick with YSG when I plan to bring Constantine on the field. That's also a very solid pair that you can do. I kept skipping her, so my apologies. All in all, Constantine, as surprising as it is, after 1.5 years or 2 years since he has been released in Rise of Kingdoms, still a very solid commander and definitely worth investment. If you still don't have your 10 marches, or if you're infantry focused or whatever, you might want to go on the commanders that you have in mind before you want to do a Constantine. Constantine should not be a priority. Constantine should be like a side investment. I was always investing on my Cav commanders. I was always investing on my nuking marches. So before I max Constantine, I got my Guan Yu ready. I got my Alexander ready. I got my Edward and Tomiris. I got my Attila and Takeda, Saladin and Genghis, and whatever other marches I was planning to use before I invested in Constantine. So it was quite a while until he was maxed, because I was mentioning I got him 5552 or something just from Magdia's governors, and only after that I decided to max him out and get him to level 60. So make sure you get your priorities in order before you invest in Constantine. But as a 5511, he's super solid, and for Sunset Canyon, if you want to progress heavily in Sunset Canyon, you need that. It will definitely help you a lot. Now, I hope you find this video very helpful. Until next time, this is your boy Geroni signing off, and don't forget to drop a like if you got to the end of the video, and thank you for watching. Peace out, yo, and take care. See you on the next one, and stay safe out there, my friends.